Arcane fails to define good or evil, it's deliberately undefined. After episode 6, everything is gray. This unrealistic moral relativism, also known as nihilism, is absurd and insidious. Great stories have this well-defined good versus evil theme. Why? Because it works and brings closure. The confusing and convoluted storyline of episodes 7 to 9 made them almost unwatchable. Yet we stayed because many of us had this false hope of, it can't just end like this, right? Then there are the pedants who scoff and scream, you must watch it again, not only to re-traumatize ourselves repeatedly because we failed to freeze-frame scenes and notice hidden Easter eggs, but also to spend time and energy researching, reading, and viewing explanation videos to decipher them. No thanks, and besides cui bono, it only serves the emotional needs of a minuscule segment of society, in spite of the majority of the viewing audience. Meanwhile, the rest of us feel like we've been used and abused, our emotions hijacked for the selfish desires of a vocal minority. They want us to accept some wishful thinking that Powder survived and managed to escape on an airship. If they don't show it, then it doesn't exist. Why couldn't they have chosen this form of exposition for Caitlin? Unfortunately, they didn't, hence the rainbow plot armor, which epitomizes contempt for the majority of the viewing audience. There is a lack of creativity with the Black Rose storyline. Suppose instead, with the emergence of Amara demanding that what was stolen be returned, it was actually identified as being the magic green runes used by M'Basa's bodyguard? This is more plausible, and furthermore, it brings balance and a believable path to follow for episodes 7 to 9. Imagine Jace, after touching the arcane, was corrupted by it negatively, thus becoming an embodiment of chaos. Suppose Victor, after touching the arcane, was affected positively, and thus became an embodiment of peace, another believable storyline to follow. Conflict between these two protagonists might have united all under one banner to fight against chaos, thus bringing balance to the present reality. Unfortunately, these storylines were not pursued because of the writer's obsession with Caitlin and her plot armor, which doomed our most loved characters to untimely ends, especially Isha. That was diabolical. Victor spoke about Powder's inclination for destruction at the commune, contrary to what we all knew, because Powder had confessed to Isha in a previous episode that Jinx was dead, and that she was beginning to heal thanks to Isha. Even the nightmares failed to taunt her as they did in the past. When she first heard of Isha's capture, she was in control, and they weren't controlling her anymore. Another missed opportunity to use the multiverse concept to bring closure by filling in the voids of many beloved characters in both universes who are missing members of their families. Using the mutated Arcane Hexgate teleportation feature to reintroduce characters would create new timelines and assist in the defeat of Chaos Jace because of their unknown unique abilities. Naturally, these characters from other dimensions would create new memories and storylines in the current universe, because the universe from whence they came was no longer viable for them to remain or was ill-fated. Writers have forsaken all that imagination, creativity, and great storytelling, which entertained us and were driven by believable characters, the pinnacle being episode 6. This is what kept us coming back for more. In episodes 7 to 9, they squander all that great work built in the preceding season and episodes because of their obsession with sexuality. They hastily dismembered continuity by including irrelevant scenes with unnecessarily lengthy exposition, bewildering viewers. They kept us in the dark regarding unresolved issues and missed opportunities for resolution because they had little or no context. If I had known this series would end so miserably, with many of our beloved characters treated in such a sadistic way by the sadist writers sacrificing them so that Singed and Caitlin were the only victors, I wouldn't have bothered to watch this series because of its selfishly anti-family undercurrent. Powder's hamartia was drummed into us time and time again that Powder is doomed. She's a jinx despite her change. She was deprived of peace and had Isha ripped away from her bosom. I understand that the Chinese-owned Tencent is a majority owner of Riot Games, and the government, being the CCP Communist Party of China, is responsible for enacting the one-child policy, and this is still traumatizing for the Chinese population. This may explain the antipathy for female newborns that still resides, and Isha being emblematic of that in Chinese society because they favor males. Nevertheless, this warped reality should never have been part of the story because it is antithetical to those of us that love the family and freedom in the West. It's as if the writers had enough in Silco's voice and wanted to create a spectacle that would allow them to smoothly transition to that sinking ship named woke Disney, with all its UN-approved Marvel universe of LGBTQ plot-armored characters that have left the ruined husks of beloved legacy characters in its wake. Rewrite of Les Miserables? With heavy emphasis on sexuality, or merely a sleight-of-hand magician's trick, explained away by the psychobabble of some tut-tutting fans, sacrificing everything for identity, particularly Caitlin wearing a rainbow plot-armored cape and standing on a mountain of our beloved characters' corpses in Season 2.